Right, stop right there. I know a lot of you like to just watch the hot lap and then go and replicate it, but just very quickly, track temps are insane this week, okay? And the rear of this car is absolutely crazy. So if you're just going to watch the hot lap and then try and go out and replicate it, it's going to be really tricky, okay? It's up to you. You know, you can do it if you want to, but we're giving lots of hints and tips about how to keep tyre temps under control in the main talk through. Okay, right, here's the lap. Well, guys, welcome welcome all to another track guide series. And we are at Spa, which is just the best track in the world. Or it would be if it wasn't for the track temps. Why have they done this for? 48 degrees track temps. Just, please, no, why? It's normally such a fun circuit, but this is going to be hard. We're only doing 15-minute races, so it shouldn't be too tricky to keep tyre temps in a reasonable range. But honestly, it's even one lap, even by the end of one lap, it's just nuts, okay? Qualifying, just, you know what I mean, like really careful out lap. Try and get some heat into the brakes, but, I mean, don't slide the tyres at all. Honestly, it's absolute nightmare out there. Right, the lap. 1:18.3. I was kind of stuck in the 18.7s for quite a long time, but I knew that there was a lap in there and managed to get out in the end. So let's have a look at it, shall we? Right. Down into turn one. Now, you've got two options. You can knock it down to first. I prefer second. I tried a few different ways, and I just found I could go a bit deeper into the corner in second. And plus, we're so rear grip limited in a lot of areas, especially on exit, and, you know, you can just be a bit more lead-footed with second gear. If you're very good with your throttle control, then first is probably fine. But yeah. Oh, I forgot the hat. So limited, well, not limited edition at all actually, because there was absolutely a ton of them at Silverstone in 2008. So this is Lewis Hamilton Drivers' Championship to celebrate his first one. And I remember going to Silverstone in 2009, and literally everybody had these hats on. Everybody had these hats on. So there we go. Not limited edition at all. Anyway. Right. We're looking at the 100, and we're braking kind of at the 100, but obviously, you know, I can see it in my triples where it is, but you might need to pick out a different point, maybe. There might be something on track. Maybe this little white thing here, but I can kind of just, as soon as 100 enters my peripheral vision on my triples, that's when I kind of brake, and we're braking hard up to about 80%, and we can hit nice and close to the wall. Now, I always used to be someone who used to get as close to the wall as possible. I thought that was the do or die kind of thing, but it doesn't seem to make that much difference if you're a little bit off it, to be honest. So, I mean, you know, like before I'd have said, oh, that's completely wrong. You need to be right up against the wall. But doing quite a lot of delta work here, it just doesn't seem to make much difference, really. It's all about hooking up the exit and, you know, getting on the throttle exactly right, okay? So, because I'm in second gear, I can get quite a bit of throttle going, okay? And we're on full throttle, and we can use quite a lot of this curb now. Track limiter Spa, for anyone who's new, used to be a nightmare, absolute nightmare. You just couldn't drive it aggressively at all. That would used to be an off track, you know, but now it's fine, so that's good. I think just 2 wheels on the red, and obviously you can look at rules and stuff, so it will tell you here. So as long as you've got 2 wheels on the red and white curb, you are fine, which is good. We like to attack corners. Okay, down into probably the greatest corner on earth, but obviously in a GT3 car, it's pretty flat, you know. Hold 5th gear here, because if you go up to 6th, you will just bog. Okay, and then we wait until we're on the flat, and then we change up to 6th gear. Now, obviously, something I forgot to mention, if you are kind of like following other cars through Eau Rouge, then you might not be flat, because you're going to have more speed, and you're going to have the aero wash of the cars in front. And the aero wash does make a fair bit of difference, okay? So that's something to bear in mind. You might want to, yeah, especially first few laps, if you're not used to it, you're probably going to want to back off a little bit, okay? Now, perfect little braking point here. As soon as you hit the curb. Easy, easy. And we can kind of go on to the curb a bit if we want to and cut back in. That's fine. I don't really see it makes that much difference. And we're braking pretty hard. Okay. I mean, you can mount these curbs quite a lot in a lot of cars. I found this week I didn't really get onto the curbs that much. It just seemed to unsettle the car a little bit too much, especially with the rears. You know, this is one of the laps where I took probably quite a bit of it, the curb. Okay. So we're on there. And then coming back across. And this is probably the more important one to take the curb. Okay. And you see, now, when you do quite a lot of telemetry work, this is an area where I found a lot of time. And in fact, these next 3 corners are the most critical on the circuit, I would say, for lap time. Okay. So you see, I'm actually back on throttle just before the curb. Lift the nose is a common theme we've been through in this track guide series. We're on the throttle to lift the nose over the curb, okay? And then here, I'm on full throttle, okay? Now, in the past, I used to be a bit lazy through here. Just used to kind of just drift through it, I suppose, you know, just be like, wow, I'm going quite quick. There's another corner right there. Yeah, a little stab of throttle isn't going to make that much difference, but it makes a lot of difference. You know, we're talking tenths of a second, okay? So, very important to get back on throttle nice and aggressively. We're coming off the turn in just because it helps to turn the car. Okay, so off throttle just to get that little bit of turn in. Okay, we're on the curb and we're coming back on throttle. This is the one occasion where I'd say you don't necessarily have to be on the throttle to lift the nose because there's so much. We're just trying to get the car turned. Okay, and that's more important than lifting the nose. Okay, and you know this car takes this curb pretty well. Okay, so we're on the curb a little bit, okay? Again, we don't want to take any grass here. Okay, on the curb, and it's quite important actually to bring it across. Now, this section of track, the car is very loose, okay? The car wants to rotate too much, okay? It's a lot about throttle control and just feeling the wheel. It's a very hard section of track, but it's where you can make up the most time. You know, sometimes you'll go through here and if you nail it, that's going to be like 3-4 tenths of a second. It makes that much difference, okay? And this final right-hander is quite hard, you know what I mean? It's a hard corner to nail, okay? So we're all the way out here if we can. Now, if you've carried too much speed in through the last corner, then you can't go here. You know what I mean? The car's going to rotate on you, and you're going to end up in the wall on the left, or you're just going to have to sacrifice too much, okay? So you're going to have to judge this. So I didn't take that last corner too quickly so I could get across, okay? but you've got to kind of just feel the car and let the car tell you what it's doing. Okay, you cannot force this car with these track temps to do what you want in your wheel. You know, you have to listen to it and kind of accept what it's going to do in a way. Okay, and keep it right on that edge of grip. Okay, so we're coming in. We're having to lift off to get the car turned in. You cannot do this corner flat, especially not in these track temps. I short shifted up to fourth. So see, I'm in fourth here. Okay, so where did I short shift? About here, I guess. Okay, you can take it in third. Okay, and maybe if you're slightly slower, then the third might be the better option. But for me, fourth, short shifting into fourth was definitely better. Okay, just kept that rear under control, because again, it looks, when you just look at the hot lap, you just think, oh yeah, well, that looks fine. And you go out and you can't understand what's going on. Why am I spinning out all the time? It's because we're right on the edge of grip here. You know what I mean? It looks easy, but it's not. You know, I caught a bit of curb here, and it kind of pushed me a little bit wide, maybe. Yeah. So I don't know. I think if you could get on it. I wasn't a fan of that, but the lap time was great, so I can't complain. Okay, now here you can take a lot more curb than you used to. If you were off the track here, you would get an off track, but you can basically go two wheels on this red curb now, which is nice. But this is an area where you're likely to off track, especially as the tyres get older and the car starts to push out. Okay, you also get quite a lot of off tracks here. Now into here, and we've got again, perfect braking point with the curb, so great. But you might have to brake a little bit before it, and when tyres get older, you would definitely have to brake before it. Okay, so we're braking, and this is a really important corner to come off the brakes as we're turning in, which is again another common theme with this series, and we've talked about it a lot. But when you're braking a straight line, you can brake very hard, but the minute you start to turn, this corner is very off camber as well. Okay, so it's doubly important to come right off the brakes as we're starting to turn into the corner. So we see coming off. Okay, I kind of lose the curb a little bit, almost like double apex it. You can just hook the inside here, okay, but I've come off it a little bit. Okay, it's just, you know, so I've kind of almost double apexed it. So you've got one apex, and then the second apex is just kind of there, running a little bit wide, but in these track temps, the grip just is not there. And I'm used to a car that grips up there, and it just doesn't. So I struggled a bit there to rein myself in. Okay, again, if we're going too much throttle, the car is just going to push wide. Okay, this is one area where you actually get a lot of understeer rather than the oversteer. But then as soon as you kind of come up to this point, suddenly you get loads of oversteer again. Okay, so lots of oversteer on exit. So again, the rear is all over the place here. It looks, like it looks fine. I don't know, but honestly, the rear is on an absolute knife edge. Okay, coming here, and then we don't have to get right across. It's not super essential, you know what I mean? But that's probably quite good. And then into here, I would take a bit of curb here. Okay, I think it helps. Okay, so we're there. But again, it's so easy just to push out wide here. It's so easy. Just don't be too hard on yourself if you miss it. That's what I'd say. And here, again, this used to be a horrible corner for off tracks. Okay, we're balancing the throttle, trying to get out as wide as we can. And this is actually quite comfortable. Okay, you can run it much closer. Okay, before this would be on the limit. This probably would have been an off track because it was the middle of the car and this fence. Okay, but now it's not an off track. Woo! Okay, and down into Puhon. And we've got a really iconic corner here. Probably all watched F1, haven't you? And this is just one of those corners that you just know. I've been here many times and absolutely love watching the cars go through here. Just a change of direction is insane. Often stand up on this bank and it's just epic. If you ever get a chance to go to Spa to watch F1, just do it. Right, okay. So we're kind of up on the curb. We kind of mount it a little bit. Okay. Open up the corner as much as we can, and we brake in. Is there a brake marker? Not really. I brake on feel here. Okay, you just kind of feel where the right spot to brake is, and we're braking not too hard. Okay, and we're going to turn in and we're trail braking in. Again, just holding that little bit of brake, okay? I've kind of touched the curb here, which has kind of pushed the car a little bit wide. Okay, but here's what it is. And you kind of get back on it. Okay, get back on the throttle. And I found kind of a tighter line was giving me a better kind of drive through. You know, in a lot of cars here, especially in the downforce cars, running wide and kind of picking up the off track on the outside would be much faster. But I found here, if you did pick up the off track on the outside, which is quite easy to do, you're actually much slower. So there we go. I was taking quite a tight line. And again, flat, but not easy flat. Okay. We've got a great little combination of corners here. And again, they've given us a nice little break point basically by having the curb. So we're braking just before it. Okay, pretty much where the shadow is of the bridge, but never brake as shadows. I learnt the hard way, where I think I was preparing for Brands Hatch one time, and there's a nice little shadow which was on the perfect brake marker. And in the race, it was cloudy, and there was no shadow on the track, and I braked far too late and caused a big pile up. But hey, we live and we learn, don't we? Okay, so braking at the curb, quite hard actually. I found actually we're going quite deep into corners. Like a lot of the times in the GT3 Ferrari, you kind of you'd rather set up the corner, you know, by braking that little bit earlier. But here, I found like it felt like you were going quite deep into corners. And that was actually better for the lap time. Okay, so actually braking pretty hard here. Again, train off was come in. I would recommend not taking the curb here. You can take it, but I found it was slower. I don't know why. Normally, running this curb is absolutely fine. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the new tyre model, it's monitoring, it puts a bit too much dirt on the tyre or something. But I just found it just didn't seem to work this week. If it works for you, great. And here again, you know, taking a little bit of red and white, it kind of felt like it pushed the car a little bit wide, but it was fast. So we go with it, and you're going to have to balance the throttle quite a lot here on exit because it's not flat at all. In lower temps it'd be easy flat, but here I'm having to balance the throttle to make sure I don't run too wide. Okay, so again, this will be a two wheels on the red and white. Okay, so we don't want to go too far wide. And again, if you've been sliding the rears a bit, you're going to be all over the place by now. Okay, but this is just about under control. And here we kind of where do I brake here? Again, just before, it feels like I'm in the middle of this curb here, really. And we wanted to kind of just get on the curb a bit. Okay, so on the curb a little bit, braking, and this is a very important exit. Okay, but we do take a bit of curb on the inside as well. Okay, so there we are. I haven't really been going through the gears. Obviously, if you need to know what gears, I mean, at different points, you can just watch the hot lap video again, the hot lap section, because you'll be able to see it. Again, with the gearing, it's all instinctive after a while. You don't really think, oh, I'm down to second here, or you know, you just kind of do it. Right. We can run a lot wider. This before would definitely be an off track, okay? Because again, it used to be this drain, kind of in the middle of the car. So this would be an off track, but as long as we keep two wheels on the red and white, we're now fine. So you can get an off track here still if you run really wide, but on the whole, that's kind of fine. Now this little right hander here, again, lower track temps, easy flat. Here, not so easy, okay? And I've hit a little bit of the curb there as well, which I don't think is the best thing to do, because you hit that curb and it pushes you a little bit wide, okay? So my advice would be to not take the curb. But you might have to play around with it, and you know, very easy to pick up off track here as well. Okay, and it's just it's so annoying if you get to this point and you just run wide here, because it just feels like you shouldn't be running wide, but it's you know, this is pretty close here. You know, this is pretty close, but it's fine. Okay, this is all flat. Blanchimont is flat, but only just really. You know, I do miss the apex a little bit. Alright, coming down into the bus stop. We've got this we've got kind of 2 points really. We've got the line and we've got the curb, and we're kind of braking in the middle, which isn't ideal. You know what I mean? Like there's this kind of patch of dirt, and it's again a bit of a feel corner. You kind of feel right. I'm kind of in between the 2 points. And you brake. Maybe the pros are slightly more accurate, but at the end of the day, if you're slightly late, you just brake a bit harder and you sacrifice a bit, which is kind of what I do on here. If you brake a bit earlier, then you just trail off the brake a bit earlier. So, you know, it's not end of the world if you don't have a very precise braking point, but it's always nice, you know. So we're braking very hard, and we're going down into first gear here. You can take it into second if your throttle control is very bad, but so I just missed the apex here. Yeah, you do want to take a little bit more, but it's not end of the world. I was on a good lap, so I just didn't want to ruin it. So is what it is. But again, we need to get on throttle in between the 2 apexes, and this is where coming down to first gear, you will get a bit more of a kind of a jump. So again, all the way up to full throttle, and then back down again, and then we turn the car in. Probably turned in a little bit too early. I kind of turned in and then had to kind of turn out of it, but this is fine. And then we kind of, if you're down to first gear, you have to balance the throttle on exit. If we're down to second, if we're up to second, sorry, then you don't have to balance it as much, okay? But here, and now we're full throttle all the way to the line. And, you know, the tyre temps, so bear in mind, 1 slow out lap followed by a quick lap, and the front right's up to 90 degrees, okay? That is very hot. Like, your second laps are just going to be much slower. Okay, so got to try and get down your first lap. If you make kind of a big mistake or you got off track your first lap in qualifying, just back right off, coast it round, and then go again. Okay, it's very important. I don't make any brake bias adjustments on this track. If I was to make one anywhere, I would say it'd be the first corner where you knock it back to the rear to help return in. So I don't really like to play around with the brake bias too much because it's something that I forget about sometimes. And obviously, if you're a slightly newer driver, it's another thing to think about, and you don't want to overload your brain too much. So there's going to be tons of splits this week, so you should get some really good racing, some really tight racing. It's a fantastic track. Shame about the track temps, but it is what it is. Keep your tyres under control. If you in the race situation, if you just keep your tyres under control for the first few laps, you will have an insane amount of speed compared to everybody else. Yeah, everyone else will be dropping off, they'll be spinning out, making mistakes, and there might be a few places in it for you. So good luck this week, enjoy, and we'll see you next week.